So, in this video we are going to discuss a previous UPSC question regarding the Government of India Act of 1935, right. So, why UPSC asks this kind of questions? What is the purpose of asking the questions related to the background of the constitution, right? Because the major purpose it serves is it will understand and it will test your knowledge about the evolution of the constitution, how the constitution got evolved, how the present day's constitution had adapted the features of the British laws, particularly those laws enacted by the British Parliament for the constitutional development in the country, right. And among all those laws, the most important law is 1935 Government of India Act, right. So, why it is so important? Okay. The importance attached with the Government of India Act of 1935 is British government has given lot of assurances in the form of Government of India Act of 1919, okay. And of course, our freedoms, our national leaders were also consistently demanding the constitutional reform in the country. Particularly, the Purna Swaraj Resolution 1929 has strongly demanded the requirement of giving complete independence in the absence of giving dominion status, right. So, that is how Government of India Act of 1935 is very important act, okay, right. So, even Simon Commission's recommendations, round table conferences, Purna Swaraj, okay, Nehru report, okay, these are all the things which are having the significance in the shaping of Government of India Act of 1935, okay, right. So, according to the British opinion, Government of India Act of 1935 is going to become the constitution for this country, right. In that regard, UPSC naturally tries to understand the aspirant's perspective, okay, how an aspirant is seeing Government of India Act of 1935, that is one thing. And moreover, Government of India Act of 1935 also reflects in the constitution, in the present day's constitution. Few critics comment that Indian constitution is a carbon copy of Government of India Act of 1935. Not only that, Article 135 of the constitution mentions that the Supreme Court will act as a federal court, okay, in the meaning of federal court in the Government of India Act of 1935, right. So, that is how we are able to see the relevance. Even Article 147 of the constitution, it also mentions the laws such as Government of India Act of 1947, that is Indian Independence Act of 1947, as well as Government of India Act of 1935, right. So, in this scenario, we need to understand how to understand and answer this particular question. Did the Government of India Act of 1935 lay down a federal constitution? So, the examiner wants to know your understanding about Government of India Act of 1935 with respect to federal features as well as unitary features, okay, right. So, what kind of answer we need to write? Here we need to write Government of India Act of 1935, okay, which tries to fulfill the promise of British government to establish a responsible government, suiting the aspirations of people, okay. In other words, it acted as the constitution of the country by promoting political unification or consolidation. Okay, so this is what the intent of the Government of India Act of 1935. Okay, so this must be kept in the mind before you write an answer, right? So so this can be an introduction also. This is what the context of the question. Okay, and apart from that, it also created a federal setup for the country, so federal setup for the country by providing the demarcation between the union government and state governments, right? So this is how we need to write the introduction. Okay, then we need to write how the Government of India Act of 1935 has provided the base for the federalism of the country. How we need to understand how did it lay down the federal constitution, right? So basically the federal constitution, why we need to say it is a federal constitution? Okay, basically the federalism means what? Federalism means there is a requirement of vertical division of functions between center and states. Vertical division of powers between, or vertical division of functions between center and states, right? So that means the central government will be having its own subject matters and state government will be having its own subject matters. Apart from that, the working relationship, if you try to see, both governments will be autonomous in their own spheres. No government is superior to another government. That is what called as federal government, right? So federalism is also something where it is a manifestation of decentralization of power. So wherever we find these kind of features, we can call it as a federalism or federal features of the constitution, right? So how the Government of India Act has provided such features, we need to understand that. Okay, so Government of India Act of 1935 provided federal features in the following manner. First one, by providing All India Federation. By providing All India Federation, which includes both princely states as well as British provinces. Okay, and not only that, okay, providing 3 lists: union list, state list and concurrent list. That is union list, central list, we can say it is central list, provincial list as well as concurrent list. Like this, there was demarcation of responsibilities between center and states. Okay, then apart from this, there are other features like how the recruitment of the civil services takes place, right? There is public service commissions. So there is both a Central Public Service Commission, State Public Service Commission, okay, as well as Joint Public Service Commission, JPSC, right? Similarly, there is provincial autonomy. Provincial autonomy. That means states will be having their own existence, their own independent existence, and the central government interference will be very much minimal, right? Similarly, you are able to see abolition of diarchy at the state level. Abolition of diarchy at the state level. Okay. Then, in order to address the disputes between central and states, there was a provision for federal court. There was a provision for federal court, right? And moreover, it is also that Government of India Act of 1935 has federal feature because it is also a written constitution. Written constitution. Right? Similarly, it also provided for bicameral legislature. Of course, this bicameral legislature was already provided by Government of India Act of 1919, but we can say the continuation of the bicameral legislature is also, it is nothing but federal feature, right? So this is how we have different federal features of the constitution. Okay, All India Federation, including provinces of the Britishers as well as princely states, and there is an existence of 3 lists: central list, provincial list, and concurrent list. Of course, concurrent list is what unitary feature. Of course, central list and provincial list. Then Central Public Service Commission, State Public Service Commission, and Joint Public Service Commission. Provincial autonomy, abolition of diarchy at the state level, provision of the federal court, written constitution, and bicameral legislature, right? This is how we are able to see the federal features of the Government of India Act of 1935. But however, Government of India Act of 1935 is not completely federal. Not completely federal. Government of India Act of 1935 is not completely federal, right? Why? Because it is not in the interest of the British government to provide such kind of federal features which will be giving complete autonomous status to the states, because they need to control the states, because anyway it is a colonial government, they require to control the state governments, local bodies, everything like that. So the federal features they have provided in the act is just to serve the governments to be responding to the needs of the people, but not to give a clear political autonomy or a political identity. Okay, so let us see how it is not completely federal. What are the features which make it not completely federal? So number 1 is the residuary powers. The residuary powers are given to Governor General. Okay, so Governor General or Viceroy has had the residuary powers. Continuation of the office of Governor. Continuation of the emergency provisions. And even functions of Governor, the legislative powers. Presence of Governor's office and legislative powers, particularly the power to veto state bills. This has been adapted from Government of India Act of 1935. Similarly, it is provided for administrative structure of the government, which is also unitary in nature. And coming to other aspects, for example, the key things for the government, for example, you take RBI, okay, this falls under the exclusive control of the union government, so it is also unitary feature, right? Then organization of judiciary, that is nothing but integrated judiciary, this is also unitary feature, okay, right. So this is how you are able to see the federal features and unitary features. So that's why it is not completely federal, it is having these kind of unitary features. Even actually when there was a discussion, there was a argument with respect to Supreme Court judgment on giving the deadlines to the governor and president regarding the clearance of the bills, and particularly in the context of the presidential reference, the Attorney General has clearly noted that Government of India Act of 1935 is the basis for empowering the governor to grant the to veto the state bills. So that is how our constitutional philosophy is having grounded on certain aspects of the Government of India Act of 1935. So looking at all these points, we can clearly say, so what is the question? Did the Government of India Act of 1935 lay down a federal structure, a federal constitution? Yes, it has laid down the federal constitution by means of these features, okay. So what are the features? One is providing All India Federation, providing 3 lists, CPSC and SPSC, provincial autonomy, abolition of diarchy, federal court, written constitution and bicameral legislature, okay. But on the other hand, there is a residuary powers, office of governor, and similarly we can also mention about concurrent list, okay, concurrent list, administrative structure, RBI, and organization of the judiciary, right. So looking at all these dimensions, we can simply understand Government of India Act of 1935 has its own impact on the Constitution of India, but however it is not completely federal, it is having certain unitary features also. So in the conclusion we need to write, okay, in the conclusion we need to write that, so the Government of India Act of 1935, despite it has provided a federal apparatus for this country, for the India, operationally or functionally, it still continue to have unitary features. By presenting the centralizing tendencies, empowering the center to control the states, thus it reflects the quasi federal features of the present day's constitution. So this is how we need to write the conclusion. Okay. So the Government of India Act of 1935, despite it has provided for federal apparatus for the Indian Constitution, okay, for India, operationally or functionally, it still continued to have unitary features by presenting the centralizing tendencies, empowering the center to control the states. Thus, it reflects the quasi-federal features of the present day's constitution, right? So this is how we need to write the answer. So it is just 10-mark question. So this information is sufficient. Okay, we don't require to write more than this. Right? You look at how we have written introduction. Government of India Act of 1935, which tries to fulfill the promise of British government to establish responsible government suiting the aspirations of people. In other words, it acted as a constitution of the country by promoting political unification and consolidation. It also created a federal setup for this country by providing the demarcation between United States. You can cut short this introduction also, right? So I wanted to present more information here. Okay, so then you need to write how it is a federal constitution, right? Federalism means vertical division of functions between center and states, giving autonomy to the center and states in their own spheres, and thus it reflects the overall decentralization of power, right? Then Government of India Act of 1935 provided federal features in the following manner. So these are the federal features which I have already discussed. Then these are the unitary features. Okay, almost all 7 features we have written. It is sufficient. We don't require to write more. Okay, then finally we have written this particular conclusion. Okay, I hope you understood how to write answers effectively. Right, please follow Epitome IAS and please do interact and do post your valuable comments in the comment box so that we can customize the classes according to your own requirement. And moreover, these are all free classes. Try to tap this opportunity. Okay, so we come up with an innovative approach. It is not that approach which generally you come across at various places. We are trying to provide you a fresh insights. Okay, how to write answer and how to present the answer. Okay, thank you so much.